when they're touting it, they are definitely not saying this, have your lipids checked, have this done, have this done. I mean, because we know what we know, we knew what to do, but...
Well, let's just throw it out there. It would have killed me
Yep.
had I stayed on it.
It can be healthy, but not for all.
All right, GBNO community, welcome to podcast number 8 of the GBNO show. I am Dr. Rob Jones. This is my awesome wife, Shannon. Say hi, Shannon.
Hi.
You're supposed to say hi, Shannon.
Hi, Shannon.
This is an old joke, but
Okay.
let's move on.
Yeah, let's do that.
Anyways, today's podcast, again, the reason why we hope we're bringing you good value is we're pretty old, which basically means we bring a lot of experience to the table. Clinical experience from me and clinical experience from her, combining for over 50 years. That's a lot. So, ouch. It hurts us, but it's going to help you. So today's podcast, all about the carnivore diet. Is it healthy for you? Is it harmful for you? The reason we bring this up, it's a really important topic because we have a personal story with it here with regard to me, and it's really talked about kind of all over the ether right now. A lot of great people talking about it, a lot of great doctors talking about it, like Paul Saladino, and we're seeing a lot of really good anecdotal, subjective type of symptom improvement in things like rheumatoid arthritis, skin problems, GI problems. We're even seeing mental health issues clear up, right? And I think that has something to do with ketosis, where you're eating a lot of meat and a lot of fat, so you're getting into ketosis. So people are talking about, their depression rates are going away, their anxiety is better, energy is better. So we're going to dive into why that is the case. So
Can I stop you first?
Yes, I would love to hear your opinion.
What do you think of our new studio?
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. So we're moving up in the world like the Jeffersons here. So we got some new digs. Excuse our dust. We're just trying to work out some little kind of tidbits on how to make this kind of ours. But hope you like it. If you don't, give us some suggestions and leave a comment and let us know what you think.
We basically had to stop doing it at the house because we were getting too many deliveries, thunderstorms, interruptions.
Daughter taking a shower in the background.
Yes, it just was not working anymore.
Yeah,
so
here
we
you
are super excited about being here and hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, let's jump into this. Carnivore diet. Miss Dietitian, what is it?
No, I'm going to let you.
You want me to do
Yeah,
this?
I want you to do this because you're the one that was so on board with it. So,
okay. So let's throw a caveat out there. You were not happy that I went on this when I did. You didn't like the strict nature of it. You didn't like how I wasn't eating certain things, getting certain nutrients, etc. So the carnivore diet, in essence, is high red meat. Now, again, you can do it in the crappy American diet way, or you can do it the way it's designed to be done, which is how I did it, where everything was organic, everything was grass-fed, there was no antibiotics, no crap in the stuff I was eating. I was still eating clean, okay, but it was literally lots of beef every day, and I wasn't concerned about the ratio of fat to protein. I wasn't trying to get lean beef. I was actually trying to get fatty beef, because according to the carnivore diet, the more good fat you have from saturated sources, it's actually good for you. So I was doing that. I was doing a ton of eggs. I was doing some fruit because I feel like I needed some carbohydrate because my job is really active. I'm still an older active athlete. So really...
And clarify, is that part of the carnivore diet?
Yeah, I mean, for some, I mean, if you look at Paul Saladino's stuff, I mean, he's eating honey in the morning, which I was doing, and I still do. He was eating fruits, but he cuts out all vegetables. He basically is talking about how certain vegetables are pro-inflammatory. They have plant defense chemicals in them.
Called lectins.
But some other ones. Lectins we're seeing from like beans and that sort of thing. But he was talking more, I don't know the terminology of it because it's not my expertise, but he was talking about full-on defense chemicals that you're going to get out of kale and some of the other things. like broccoli. But basically, yeah, so it was tons of beef, not very much white meat, fatty food, whole milk, lots of fatty cheeses, and that's the essence of the carnivore diet. And I was on it for a year and a half, and I felt really pretty good until I didn't.
Yeah, so let's first back up a little bit and talk about some of the health benefits. You kind of touched on them, but let's talk a little bit about the health benefits that people are claiming to achieve by following the carnivore diet. And I do believe the fruit is one of the ones that on a true carnivore diet, it does not include fruits.
Yeah, like by the truest nature, it's basically, it's beef and cooking in tallow, it's eggs, and really not much else.
It's truly meant to put you similar to ketosis. Mm-hmm. It's not, they don't really tout to measure your ketones and all of that stuff.
Right.
But, definitely people are seeing weight loss, mm-hmm. and that honestly is most likely because of the ketosis that it's creating. Mm-hmm. They find it easier to follow because it's just macros really that they're keeping up mm-hmm. with. They don't really have to keep up with calories. Mm-hmm. They find that it's satiating mm-hmm. because of all the fat and all mm-hmm. the protein. Definitely, I'd say men really love it because of all, their steak, and, full fat cheeses and all of that stuff.
It's awesome
just
that
right
way.
up.
Yeah.
So the health claims like the autoimmune improvements and things of that sort.
Acne, skin, as I said before, depression, anxiety, a lot of health benefits, a lot of anecdotal.
We don't have a lot of research, however, long-term wise. Mm-hmm. Like you said, it's anecdotal, meaning this is what people are reporting that is mm-hmm. happening. However, we really don't know long-term when you remove all plant foods, what happens because of that.
But here's the thing. I don't want to discount anecdotal because I use anecdotal in my clinic. I mean, there's certain things that work for certain people that may not confine to the norms of what a paper shows. Okay, you've got to be able to take the information from a research paper and interpret that to see what's happening clinically.
But we don't even have long-term anecdotal information.
100%. Yeah. But we do have short-term anecdotal.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is people are just cleaning up from eating the crappy American diet. They're not eating processed foods. They're stopping eating sugars and processed sugars and fructose and high fructose corn syrup and all that crap. So, I mean, naturally grown beef is really good for you. Like it's
nutrient dense.
It's super nutrient dense and saturated fat. I mean, we know it's better to like tallow and butter. It's better to use that than the seed oil based margarine crap they were trying to feed us 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So there's definite benefit to it. But I think in a lot of people, the reason they're clearing up their rheumatoid arthritis, their psoriasis, whatever else, their skin issues, is because they're taking away the trigger that's resulting in this hyperimmune response.
Which is probably ultra-processed food and sugar.
100%.
Yeah.
So again, is it the carnivore diet that's fixing people, or is it that they're no longer eating the typical crappy American diet processed food that's creating rampant inflammation in the system?
And again, I liken it to ketosis and the ketogenic diet because my pushback on that has always been, is it something that you can do 24/7, 365 during holidays, during vacations? Is alcohol included on the carnivore diet? Doesn't that throw you out of ketosis? I mean, when we have extremes like that, it's just not something after 31 years of working with patients that I know people do not have the ability to stick to long term. Therefore, if you're doing it for health benefits, if you go back to doing what you were doing before, then you're reversing that. So what's the point?
Right.
If you're doing it for weight loss and then you do it for a finite amount of time and then you go back to doing what you were doing before, what's the point? Mm-hmm. So I think when people adopt these type extreme diets, they have to think about it. Is this a lifestyle? Mm-hmm. For you, you did do it. And, you know, one, we are the extreme really of clean eating and organic and, you know, chemical free eating and all of that. I would say you probably followed it more to a T than most, meaning we don't eat out often. We, you know, all of the things, right? Our message today is that it can be healthy, but not for all.
Well, let's just throw it out there. It would have killed me had I stayed on it.
And here's the thing. You felt like you felt great. Because every time I would be making dinner and I had vegetables and whatever, you would balk and say, no, I feel better not eating that stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, you just kept throwing back at me that you were feeling better. You were feeling better. However, and I even noticed your mother mentioned it too, you weren't looking healthier. Mm-hmm. I've noticed that right away. And even if you look back in videos before, why don't you, this is a good time to give a backstory. Okay. So really today is about us telling a case study about Rob, mm-hmm. because there are so many people that are following this carnivore diet, and no doubt there are plenty of people that are having great health outcomes because of it. Yeah. But if you do some labs, and I would highly recommend that you do, and your lipids are off, the message today is to look further, because this carnivore diet could be killing you. And I mean that not to be dramatic, but I mean that legitimately, and we have proof. So let's give a backstory about how the history with you kind of started, and then let's walk them through why we felt the need to make a podcast out of this.
So when I say, had I stayed on the carnivore diet, it would have killed me. It's 100% true. It would have killed me. I would have had a heart attack. Who knows how severe, but we have labs to prove it. So let's go back. So we lived in Kansas before we moved to Florida in the summer of 2022. Before we moved to Florida in the summer of 2022, I wanted, because we had really good health insurance because you worked at the hospital, I went to my doctor and I was like, listen, I'm getting ready to leave. Just do a big workup. I want to see what my parting ways are, right? And she took a full panel of labs, and then she did why do I always forget the name? The CT scan of the heart.
It's a
calcium score.
Test, yeah.
So she did a full blood panel, and then she did a calcium score where you basically, it's very cheap. I would recommend everybody do it. Super inexpensive. I think you can get it here in Florida for like less than $100.
I had a patient do it the other day that it was $69.
Yeah, so it's basically they take a CT scan of your heart and they look at the vessels and see the level of buildup and calcification. They grade it 0 to 10. 10 is you really need to see a cardiologist because you're imminently in danger of a heart attack. 0 is perfect. My labs were perfect. My CT score for my calcium score was perfect. My doctor, in fact, when she called me, she was really cool. She basically said, hey, Mr. Squeaky Clean, just want to let you know before you leave, everything's good. Your labs are perfect, and your CT scan, your calcium score, your heart is perfect. And I was like, woo, I'm great. Now, here's the caveat. I've always been active. I've always done ample amounts of cardio. I lift 4 or 5 times a week. I play tennis. I'm always on the go. My energy's always good.
And why don't you tell them how your wife fed you?
Yeah, so basically, beef a couple days a week because I love steaks, I love burgers. Most of the time for dinner, salads with protein. During the day. And
it's not just a salad. It was very nutrient dense, an array 100%. Of
avocado,
various vegetables and layers and layers of nutrient density.
So we ate the Mediterranean diet basically. I ate lots of protein, but it was less beef and more poultry, fish, that sort of thing. So very Mediterranean. Snacking during the day between patients is yogurt with nuts, protein shakes. I was getting
Greek yogurt,
yeah, and low sugar because we've never been sugar people. And then when we moved to Florida, I started kind of reading about the carnivore diet. I was like, this sounds amazing.
All I had to do was say nonstop steak, and you were hooked.
Yeah, I mean, I was cooking steaks every night. I was having burgers, and And literally, I was eating a lot of eggs, but I did supplement with fruit because I feel like I need some carbohydrate because I'm so active. So I did that from the fall of 2022 until a couple of months ago. It's now September 11th. God bless the people who perished on September 11th. The thing that started happening in around March of this year of 2024, so almost exactly a year and a half, is I was gassed. I never have poor energy. I am always rolling. I'm the Energizer Bunny. I've got myself dialed in even at 52. I never get tired until it's time to go to bed, and then I crash. I'm blessed with good sleep. Basically, I just started getting gassed, and I would come home and be like, Shannon, I don't know what's going on. I've got no energy. And
you want to know why I knew something was really wrong?
Yes.
Because you did not go to the gym. And that, I'm telling you, I've known you for how many years?
Almost 30 years we've been together.
30 long years. And in those 30 long years, the number one thing you want to do is go to the gym.
Yeah.
Like, you're mad when I say we have something to do that you can't go to the gym.
Yeah,
the fact that you were electing to not go to the gym, I knew something was really wrong.
Yeah. So the gym for me is three things. I love doing it because it makes me feel amazing.
He's an alien, just so you know. Nope. I mean, it's annoying.
Yeah. So I love doing it because I love the way it makes me feel. I love experimenting on myself. And then it's relatively, it's almost like euphoric for me because it helps my brain, but I'm also experimenting because I'm helping figure out patients' issues while I'm training. So it's multifactorial to me. So actually, like the night before a gym day, I'm like laying in bed going, cool, I'm going to do chest tomorrow, and then I'm going to do some extensor stuff.
Which you have to understand
is weird.
Not very many people can associate with that.
I know. I'm dorky that way, but it's just been my thing. I guess it's better than...
You should have been a professional athlete. I mean, for somebody who likes to work out as much as you do, like I always say, you missed your calling.
Well,
no, I do think you're doing what you should do.
In another life. But anyway, so we're digressing here. So I was so tired even when I went to the gym, even taking pre-workout, I could barely get through my workouts.
I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah, well, it's another topic for another day. Mm-hmm. I could barely get through my workouts. And so finally, Shannon was like, okay, we're done with this. This is ridiculous. Something is not right. We got to get labs and see what's going on. So I want you to talk about the labs.
So we first started with just a typical, what I have always historically called a Chem 25, which is just checking in on the big organs, just seeing what things were. Well, those came back extremely alarming.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, good Lord, are you 350 pounds and sitting on the couch as a couch potato all day and smoking? It was crazy. Your blood sugar, your insulin. I mean, you literally had metabolic syndrome. Your blood pressure, your all your lipids were the worst that they could possibly be. Mm-hmm. And even though I knew you had been on a carnivore diet, there was just so many things that were not correlating clinically. Mm-hmm. So one, your lifestyle, the fact that you work out all the time, how clean we eat. Like, I could see if you started, next door to you, there was some restaurant that you kind of got addicted to and you started doing, but nothing.
No.
And
we don't barely drink. I mean, we have a couple of drinks a couple of times a month with friends at dinner, but we don't have a beer a night or anything like that. We don't eat sugar.
Being a clinician for 31 years, I always kind of take a step back and look at if the labs correlate to lifestyle, mm-hmm. and kind of try to identify. To me, it didn't really until I realized the carnivore diet. Another thing, too, is you started seeing pictures of yourself, mm-hmm. and you kept saying, I look like I have a big belly. Mm-hmm. Now, I could touch your belly. This is kind of weird being across from you because I can't touch you, but usually I would touch your belly. I mean, you're solid, mm-hmm. as a rock.
You can see my abs when my shirt is off.
Yeah, I mean, there's zero fat, a periphery there. But we always thought that the way you're training your abdomen because of your bracing for exercise, we thought that that's why your abdominal wall was protruding out.
Yeah, we thought I was building like a thick abdominal wall.
Exactly. I wish in retrospect we would have done a DEXA scan, mm-hmm. which a DEXA scan is it measures your total body fat, but more importantly, it tells you what type of fat, whether it's subcutaneous, which is the stuff you can pinch, or the visceral, which is the stuff that's embedded in your organs. Because I really believe in my heart of hearts, based on your clinical picture, that you were building a abdomen full of visceral fat, which was making you extremely sick.
Yeah, and the weird thing was just looking at myself in the mirror, I felt like, and everybody feels this periodically, like when your intestines are full, you got gas, or you just feel bloated. I started feeling like that a lot. Like I started going, why? Like I'm trying to pull my abs inward to like show my abs in the mirror, and I couldn't do it. Like I felt like I had a wall in there.
It almost got to the point where you needed to get a bigger shirt because you kept seeing pictures and you're like, God, I look like I have a beer gut, you know, and clearly your lifestyle did not match that. So I said, this still is not making sense. Something is going on. So there's a couple of factors to look at. When your lipids are off, especially your LDL, there's a lot of research that shows that you can't just take the LDL as the end-all be-all.
Yeah, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Mm-hmm.
So I know right now, if there's people that are listening to this that are pro-carnivore, they're going to roll their eyes and go, oh, I know, saturated fat increases LDL, and there's no real good data that shows LDL has anything to do with anything. It's all anti-inflammatory, and if you want to, people who have higher levels of brain health as they age have higher LDL. People who have super low levels of LDL end up with Alzheimer's. We're not talking about all LDL. We're talking specifically ApoA, ApoB.
Yes.
So, which are the two breakdowns of LDL. So go ahead.
So then I knew I wanted to get that information. So we used a different lab and to kind of drill down and see, okay, what is your LDL made up of? Mm-hmm. So it measured your ApoA and your ApoB, which your ApoB was horrible. Mm-hmm. And so ApoB is the dangerous kind. You don't want your ApoB to be high because that's indicative of small, sticky fatty acids, or I mean, how would you explain that?
So if you have what's called the lumen, or the inside of your blood vessel, it should be nice and clean and shiny. You don't ever want it sticky. Anything in your body internally that's sticky means there's inflammation. So you don't want things to aggregate or coalesce or stick together, okay? Think about packing a snowball together or taking wet sand and stacking it together. The wetter it is, the more it stacks together, right? So if you have the inside of your lumen and you have this ApoB, which I did, which is small and sticky, it's going to stick to the wall. And then everything that cruises by it, it may flick that and pick it up. And now it aggregates and becomes bigger and bigger. So that's where your clot potential takes place. And that's where your heart attack potential or stroke potential takes place, because now what happens if this thing grows and grows and grows and grows and grows, now it's taking up the vast majority of the vessel and the blood can't get through. Everything past that point, you have what's called an infarct, which is basically the lack of blood to that area, and you get a little tissue death. I mean, my numbers were my ApoB, the normal range is 50 to 65. I was 160.
Yeah.
More than double.
And that was the scary one. Yeah. That was the one where we said, okay, yeah. So we always knew that you congenitively had some heart your cholesterol and LDL has always run just a bit high.
Yeah. So since my 20s, when I got my first blood panel, my family doctor back then, he basically said, yeah, Rob, your lifestyle, and even in my 20s, I was always super healthy because I was an undergraduate in kinesiology and health science, so I was into health from a very young age. My LDL was normal, but it was high normal, which is your quote-unquote bad cholesterol, and then my HDL, which is the good cholesterol, which basically goes through the system and cleans up the bad stuff and helps you excrete it out. I was low normal. So if this is your range, this is really good, this is really bad. I was somewhere kind of here, which for my lifestyle, not drinking a lot, even in college I didn't drink. I drank some, but not a ton. Ate well, exercised all the time. That HDL should have been way higher.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't. So genetically, I've got a predisposition to this.
We knew that. Mm-hmm. We knew that. And certainly never really worried about it, especially when you got your calcium score. And it was clear at that point that even if your LDL was in the high normal, it was not causing issue in your vessels. And so that's really something I just can't say enough about people getting this calcium score. Especially, we just recently had a friend who had a heart attack in his early 50s, and had he gotten a calcium score, that would have never happened. So it's an inexpensive test that if your lipids tend to run high, go get that test. See how your body is responding to that.
So the calcium score, again, is what I just talked about. If you have this aggregation or buildup of a blockage, the more it stays there, the more it calcifies and hardens, and that's what they're actually testing. They're testing the vessels and how clean they are on the inside in your heart. So describe to people what triglycerides are.
Well, triglycerides are like a three-pronged glycerol that has fatty acids on the end.
Okay.
It's really clinically, when I see somebody who has high triglycerides, it's very indicative of lifestyle.
Okay.
It's very indicative of how they are eating. It's not one of those that it seems responsive over time. It's pretty accurate to a true picture of how that person is eating. And if it's up, it means that they're eating very high fat, typically ultra processed. Could be because of a lot of alcohol. Could be that they're not moving much.
Okay.
Really a lifestyle, the polar opposite of yours.
Okay, so my triglycerides, normal range is 70 to 100 milligrams per deciliter. Take a stab at what I was, if you recall.
Oh, I know exactly what you were.
326. I was 3.25 times higher than what I should have been.
Yeah.
So again, triglycerides are a snapshot in time of what's floating around in the system, right? I was like fat floating around in my system.
Yeah.
3.25 times where it should have been. No wonder I felt like crap.
Well, and I would say the thing that really concerned me more so was your blood sugar and your insulin level. Like that, just because we know that control of blood sugar and insulin as we age is so very important to preventing metabolic issues. And I thought, gosh, where's that coming from? Because that was new. Mm-hmm. You had never really had blood sugar issues ever. Yeah. And it's just nothing correlated to your lifestyle.
Yeah. My blood sugar and insulin levels were such that it was showing that I was borderline type 2 diabetic.
Yeah, and I would actually say that had you gone to a physician, they probably would have recommended you go on metformin.
Right. And again, like lifestyle, the way I look.
And they probably would have put you on a statin.
Yeah, and I don't eat sugar. Yeah. Like, had I gone to a doctor, they would have been like, you got to get on these meds, probably go see a cardiologist.
I mean, one of the benefits of the carnivore diet is the lack of carbohydrate and better blood sugar and insulin control. So it was just like the polar opposite for you. The takeaway of this is you just can't, it's not a blanket thing. Not everybody can be on a carnivore diet. Mm-hmm. And this, we're trying to give you an example of why that is. Yeah. So then I said, you know what, this still is not making sense. Why did you get so sick so quickly when your lifestyle doesn't really match it? And that's when I did some genetic testing for you. And this report blew our mind. Yeah.
So to me, this is the future of medicine. It's called, we don't have the title page here. It's called 3x4. Is it 3x4 genetics?
Yep.
So basically it was, and again, this stuff is inexpensive, which is mind blowing. No insurance.
Well, it's not inexpensive. For some people, maybe $350 is a lot. However,
understand.
What's the cost of a heart attack?
Okay, I was going to say understand, but what's the cost of medication? Okay, yeah. Medications can be hundreds of dollars a month. This was one test for $325, $345. They sent it in the mail. I did a buccal swab. I put the little Q-tip in my mouth. I think it was like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Put in a little container, sent it back.
And what it was doing was capturing your DNA.
Absolutely.
And basically just showing you exactly what your DNA is.
Yeah.
And what we realized is very quickly that genetically the carnivore diet will kill you.
Yeah. Absolutely. So do you want you to talk about what the findings are?
Yeah, so the way they do this is it's really just a very cool report. It just goes through your entire body and kind of just tells you based on your genetics exactly what your body does with everything. The number one thing that was an issue for you was inflammation, which leads to what we've reported on this about 100 times, 14 out of the 15 top diseases that you die from. Your body, you are prone to chronic inflammation genetically.
Yep.
Okay.
So measures of inflammation from a lab standpoint are C-reactive protein and homocysteine. And about 2017 is when you and I started to really delve into functional medicine. And we had a doctor back in Kansas that we really liked. And you went to her for some things. And you said, just go see her and just see if she can make you even feel better. And so she took some labs. My labs were pretty good, but my C-reactive protein and my homocysteine were high. And knowing I'm not a medical doctor, but we get labs training in chiro school, I was like, those are inflammatory markers pointing to heart issues. And she said, yes, but with your lifestyle, I'm willing to bet that homocysteine issue is a polymorphism in the MTHFR gene. And you can go down the rabbit hole on that, but basically it's a B vitamin demethylator. And so I didn't have the ability to methylate B vitamins. So she put me on a methylated B vitamin and went back for labs 3 months later. My homocysteine was totally back to normal. Now I've been taking a methylated B vitamin daily since 2017. So in spite of even taking that methylated B, because we knew about the MTHFR, my homocysteine was regular is 5 to 9. I was at 10.42, and the C-reactive protein was 0 to 1 milligrams per liter. Mine was 0.73. So again, not super high, but higher than what they should be. I mean, above normal in the homocysteine and high normal on the C-reactive protein.
Yeah, which again, for your lifestyle is crazy.
Yes,
The
exactly.
things that were super concerning to me was the fact that the inflammation, that's probably the worst one you could possibly get, but then also the cholesterol and the vascular health and your blood pressure.
Yeah.
So let me just read this. You are likely prone to raised cholesterol levels, which we knew. Your blood vessels may be susceptible to damage, which is not good. Mm-hmm. You are likely to experience blood pressure dysregulation. Mm-hmm. So you're prone to inflammation, you're prone to your vessels being damaged, and then you're prone to continued damage through high blood pressure.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my blood pressure was high when I was on the carnivore diet.
Here's the one.
Yeah, this is the kicker. Hold that up so people can see what fat looks like in the system. All right. So these are fat cells right here.
Not yours, but they're just trying to give a visual interpretation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Your number one issue is your fat cells are prone to inflammation. Mm-hmm. You readily store fat, mm-hmm. and your ability to ship fatty acids out
and use them as energy
is poor.
Exactly. So basically, I'm taking in all this saturated fat and my body cannot process it.
Exactly.
So the carnivore diet for Dr. Rob was toxic.
And so the takeaway here is that we recognize that this is not the case for everyone.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting when they're touting it, they are definitely not saying this, have your lipids checked, have this done, have this done. I mean, because we know what we know, we knew what to do, but who's going to know to do this? How many other people are just like you where this could cause a heart attack?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this report was amazing. It even got into some things that really made sense for you genetically, how your body naturally felt.
Yeah.
You want to get into that? Because I know the reports I've gotten through integrative medicine have been like, wow, my body's been trying to tell me this my whole life.
100%.
No wonder I'm this way.
Absolutely.
What was that for you?
So Well, it was the fat thing. Now I think, and this is just my own interpretation because I can't see inside my body, but I think my subcutaneous fat stayed pretty lean.
Yeah.
Because I work out so much. So I was able to keep my body going metabolically because my muscle mass is high. But again, the visceral fat, which is the fat around the organs, was getting packed on with that inflamed fat because I couldn't process it.
And that was under your abdominal wall. So when we were seeing this, as again, is I regret not doing a DEXA scan because I would have loved the DEXA. Sorry, the DEXA scan shows exactly what type of fat is where, and the most dangerous fat is visceral fat. It's metabolically very dangerous, and where it is the other thing. And yours was around all your vital organs, which is even worse.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing is, I have, been really athletic my whole life. I was that kid, ADD, get outside, run around, never enjoyed video games because I just didn't want to sit still. I wanted to be outside doing stuff. And I still to this day, I play tennis a couple times a week when there's waves here in Florida. I like to surf. I'm always bugging you to go on a bike ride. I love going to the gym. I need to be active. And I've dealt with tendon injuries my whole life. And it's always puzzled me, like, why the hell am I always getting these tendinitises that my friends never get? Why am I tweaking this stuff after barely doing anything? And I've done all these mitigating things that have helped, which is really what drove me into my profession, because I was injured a lot. You name it, I've had it. Plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis, patellar tendonitis.
You're very in tune with your body, and 100%. You're very in tune to pain and how to mitigate it and when it hurts, knowing what to do. But it's been a perpetual issue for you.
100%. And again, I've kept myself well with my techniques, but the interesting thing is I have a polymorphism, which means a change in the genetic coding of how my body lays down collagen to repair tissue in tendons and other connective tissue. So that's why this testing is so amazing, because it literally takes out all the guesswork.
Yeah.
Instead of going, oh, I got another tendon injury, I guess I better go to physical therapy, or I guess I better do this stretch or whatever. Now I know I've got a tendon issue. I've got to take care of my tendons from the inside out. I've got to consume more collagen. I've got to make sure I keep inflammation down, which we do naturally, but I take more curcumin and more fish oils now. And I do very specific warm-ups when I train now, which are actually part of, shameless plug here, the GBNO program. I get the body moving right before we load it. Because if you're like me and you have tendon injury a lot, you can't just jump right into things. But yeah, that blew my mind. This thing took a snapshot without barely knowing me. And every level of every test, I was like, that's me, that's me, that's me, that's me. And by the way, we have nothing to do with this company. No. We're not affiliated. They don't pay us for anything. But I would highly recommend, this is the future of medicine, because it takes out all the guesswork. Medical doctors, I think, get less than an hour of total classwork in nutrition. Yeah. That less than an hour means they take one course.
That. Yeah, and I think a lot of the times it was the class that they slept in. Or
some will say, well, we got to clean up your diet. But a lot of them don't know enough about a diet, and they'll send you to a dietitian who may or may not know the intricacies from a functional standpoint. So that's why this is so important, because the typical allopathic or medical model is going to put you on meds, and it's not going to...
They want to put you on a slew of meds.
Slew of meds to get the symptom, not the cause. This is foundational right here.
One thing that I found super duper interesting for you is this was super high genetically. Mm-hmm. You have exceptional power potential and will likely respond very well to power training.
Yeah, that was cool. And again, my...
2 different specific genes where you are like way up there high.
Yeah. So again, my...
Recovery's low.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So my athletic choices ever since a kid growing up in Canada, you're born with skates on your feet. So I played hockey my whole life, and I played up until our second daughter was born in 2007. And I actually brought my equipment down to Florida because I want to get into playing again. But Hockey is a high anaerobic sport. Go hard for a minute, get off and rest. Go hard for a minute, get off and rest. I gravitated towards baseball. Again, high power, get in, get out type of sport. Tennis, get in, get out. Tennis has a little bit more of an aerobic base, but there was, when I was in middle school, shout out to my middle school teacher here, Mr. McFarland, who back in 1982, 83, 84 had a high influence on me. He was a great guy. Hope he's still around. But we did this run. I think it was called the 1.6 or 1.8 mile run. It was kind of around the school block with a hill, and I wanted to make that cross. You had to have a certain number to make that cross country team. I could never make the team.
Yeah.
Here I was super fast. I could run the 100 fast.
You would be better off in a weightlifting class.
Yeah, I was a great hockey player, but I couldn't get below. I think it was 15 minutes is what you needed.
Okay.
And it's because my capacity for long distance is terrible.
Yeah, so your training response, you likely have a good response to training,
Yeah.
which is true.
Yeah.
You may be moderately prone to soft tissue injuries.
Yeah, moderately, yeah.
And endurance, you may take longer to respond to endurance training.
100%. And that's just me. And again, this is the magic of the genetic testing. Like it paints me to a map. Like it is perfect.
It gets into nutrients overviews and how you should be eating based on your genetics. It's a really cool report.
Yeah.
For now, we need to probably wrap up.
Yeah.
But the takeaway here for me was my intuition is always bang on.
She's the smart one of the couple.
No, it's not that. I did not like you being on the carnivore diet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was. I didn't think you were looking as healthy as you normally had been. I think, like I said, your mother even pointed it out. She kept saying, "Are you okay?" And you would say, "I'm fine, Mom." Mm-hmm. I think she was seeing it because she's not with you every day. How are you eating today, Dr. Rob?
I'm eating exactly like my dietitian wife has wanted me to eat for years and had me eating for years.
And how are you feeling, Dr. Rob?
I feel back to normal. And interesting, my clothes are fitting differently. Again, we haven't done any DEXA scanning, so this is just subjective, but my t-shirts are not.
I can tell.
My t-shirts are not as tight. I used to get bothered by this like wraparound love handle fat that I had back here. That's going away, but my energy's back to amazing, like it always has. But basically, I fast a lot. I don't really eat my first calories until 11 o'clock.
But you've always done that.
And that was another thing. I was like, I'm fasting so much. My lab should be amazing. It actually depressed me a little bit. I was like, here I am doing all this healthy shit, and like, nothing is working.
And I mean, I just want to say again and emphasize, had you been a person who was not you and I who have the training that we do, you would have gone to the doctor and you would be on a slew of meds right now. Mm-hmm. Not knowing how to fix the issue, but just putting a Band-Aid on what they see on paper versus to the degree we were able. So the takeaway there is, don't just settle for simple labs. Get in touch with somebody who knows how to drill down. What is your body trying to tell you? Your body was trying to tell you, dude, this is not how you can live if you want to live long.
So back to the eating question. So my first calories of the day are usually a protein shake, some fruit. Thank God I can still eat eggs because I love eggs. So hard-boiled eggs at the office. Instead of eating fatty beef sticks like I was eating.
Well, you were eating salami wrapped in cheese.
Yes.
And,
all this high-fat stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm back to now, slices of turkey, slices of chicken. And I don't love poultry, but I got to do what I got to do to not die.
And may I say, the salami and stuff that we were buying was no nitrites, organic. I mean, we bought the good stuff.
Yeah, we weren't buying crap. So so more poultries during the day, still doing fruit, still doing yogurt.
You love Yardbird.
I don't love Yardbird, but I got to eat Yardbird to not die. I got to be able to walk my girls down the aisle. And then for dinner, we're doing protein. And I'm still eating some red meat, but it's usually in the form of bison, which has zero. We get these bison fillets from Whole Foods. Tenderloins. They're amazing. I cook them on the grill. They taste great. They actually have 0 grams of saturated fat in them. And then leaner cuts of beef if I do eat beef.
And plus, I can get ground bison. We make taco meat with that. Yeah. You can get really more creative.
Yeah, but probably 5 nights a week, some sort of protein in a salad that's got a lot of color in it. Always have a full avocado in every salad because that just fills me up, and then I'm not hungry snacking at the end of the night, basically. But yeah, and I'm going to feel great, feel back to normal. What's the takeaway?
The takeaway is listen to your wife.
Isn't that the takeaway for every husband?
Every single husband.
Happy wife, happy life. No, the takeaway is, listen, if you're going to go on, we're not knocking the carnivore diet. It's helped thousands of people. Awesome. But it would have killed, this is not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
It would have killed me. I would have had a heart attack.
And I actually wanted you, Mr. Non-Compliant, sometimes go get another CT. I would have loved to have seen if it were making a difference in your vessels.
Yeah.
Which I think, looking at your labs, it would have had to have been.
Yeah. So we're 3 or 4 months out now. I'm going to wait a full 6 months before we redo the lab testing, and then we'll do a podcast on that to see where everything is. And I'm assuming it's relatively back to normal. I will get a calcium score, CT scan of my heart, and then I'm going to get a DEXA as well.
Yeah. And
we'll see where we are with that. But again, the takeaway, carnivore diet, not bad, but dangerous for some. So if you are going to venture that way, monitor your labs. Get a genetic test. It's not that expensive. And follow up, pay attention to it, and again, listen to your body. That's the biggest thing. And
we will put in the show notes this particular name of this report, and so that people can find it. Mm-hmm. So that, not a lot of people know a connection to integrative doctors. I have integrative training, so that's kind of why I knew what to do. But always I recommend people have access to a good functional integrative doctor in addition to their PCP. If not, because usually functional doctors also have an MD, and you can find ones that practice both ways, because they're going to be the ones that know how to manage this versus just with medication. Yeah, they're just going to take a deeper dive, get down to the foundational issue, not just deal with the symptoms. So I guess that wraps it up for another episode of the GBNO show. So from our new digs. Hope you guys digged our new digs. See what I did there? Is it done, our new digs? I don't know. No. It was a stupid joke anyways. Okay. Fast forward through that. Anyways, from Dr. Rob and my awesome wife Shannon, who is saving my life on a daily basis. Don't ever forget that. I'm here to get you better, not older, from the outside in. And I'm from the inside out. So until next time, get better, not older.